to the fourth of our spreadsheet training lectures. Today we're going to look at a variety of new ideas and new topics. First of all, let's just do a quick recap, just for a couple of minutes, on what we did in the last session. So the first thing we looked at was the idea of absolute versus relative cell references. Okay, and here is an example. Okay, and all it really means is that sometimes you don't want cell references in formulas to change. Okay, you don't want them to move whatsoever. So we can see here we've put these dollar signs. I've got a dollar here before the B, and I've got a dollar here before the 26, and the one protects the row and the other protects the column. Okay, and that cell there, this B26, refers to this 17.5% VAT figure we've got down here in B26. And all we're saying is then no matter what happens, where we drag that formula, where we copy that formula to, it will always point back to B26. It won't change to any others. And you can see that if we go ahead and look at a different formula, here for example, this one is taking the contents of C17, so this figure here, and it's timesing it by B26. It always goes back. All of these all say B26, and that's just because we put the dollar signs there to protect it. Okay. Then we went on to look at some charts. Okay, so I've got some information here, which has got a bit of funny formatting on it, because we did some conditional formatting as well. So I'm just going to delete the conditional formatting we used and set that back to. So let's just do a quick chart. So let's just remind ourselves. So we select, I'll just do one for these three. We select the area, and then we press the chart wizard button. Okay, and then the major decision we have to make is what type of chart we're going to do. Let's do a line chart this time, and I think one like this with lots of these different markers. And then basically all we're doing is pressing the next button, and we're just as we press the next button, we just fill in certain information. So, you know, so sales over year, and then we just press finish, and we choose which sheet we'd like to put it in. Okay, so that's a very quick overview, but that's essentially, it's very quick process to make a graph. And if you go back and look at last week's, then we've got all that information there. So it's just a quick recap. And then the final thing we looked at last week was the idea of conditional formatting. So we know that formatting is the idea of adding colours or different colour fonts. So there we go, I can see I've made the background yellow and the font colour red. So it's the idea of doing that, but having that automated based on certain data. Okay, so what we did as an example was we selected this area, we go to format, and then we go to conditional formatting. And then it's just kind of like, again, a bit like that. We're just going to follow this little wizard. So the cell value, so what number is in there? Let's do one for between. I don't think we did it between. So let's make it between 10 and 20. Okay, and we've got all sorts of different options. Is not equal to, so that's less than, equal to, greater than. So, you know, greater than 10. You know, we all understand what these different terms mean. Okay, so let's say between 10 and 20. And what do we want it to do? Well, we'll just have it, no, we'll go red. Okay, so between 10 and 20 is red. And then we press OK. And you can see that all of the cells, unfortunately I've got red text in these cells as well. Let me just set that back to black. But you can see any that we selected, I only selected this top area, but any that we selected, no, I didn't only select the top area, those are just the numbers between 10 and 20. So the numbers between 10 and 20 have turned red. Don't worry about the ones in yellow, those are the ones that I did beforehand. Okay, so that's just a quick recap of what we did last week. So let's move on to today's. So let's minimize this. So we're going to just look at a few more different types of formulas. Okay, and again, these are, once you get the hang of doing, so we've done sum, we've looked at sum, which is the only real formula we've looked at, and we looked at doing individual multiplications and divisions and additions and subtractions. And then we introduced the idea of actually like formulas with words in. So this one is sum. And real key is just knowing what the different words mean, okay? Because there's loads of them. So let's start looking at some, there's loads, but they all follow the same layout, the same route, and they all sort of even prompt you on how to do it. So let's see. So I've written three little headings here: average spend, best month, worst month. So let's see if we can just do some quick formulas to work out what might be for those. So the average spend. So how do you do the average? Well, the way you're taught average in school is you add them all up and you divide by the number there are. Okay? But we don't even, so we could do that. We could go, we could add up these totals here, all of these, and then we could divide by 12. Okay? But Excel has it built in to do it for us, so we can make it even easier. So we say, so we're going to do a formula. So what do we start with? We start with equals, and then it's the average formula. So it really is quite simple. We type in average, and then we do an open bracket, and then it's exactly the same as the sum formula. In fact, the only difference is the word we're using. So I like selecting it with the mouse. I'm going to click and I'm going to drag from B17 to M17, and you can see it's filled it in for us. And I'm just going to, just for good measure, I'm going to put my closing bracket in, but it would do it automatically for you. And we can see that the average spend is £599 and 0.0283. Okay, so we looked at, we had a quick, actually this is one of the quick things we did. Let's just make this, because there isn't 0.283 in finance, it's just 2 decimal places, there's only 2 pennies. So what do? Well, we had a quick look at this. We go to Format Cells, and under Format Cells, we say, well, this is going to be a number, and it's going to be, there we go, just 2 decimal places. So I've just changed it from general, which can hold anything. It can hold text, it can hold numbers. I've just changed it to number, and I've just said it's 2 decimal places. And so when I press OK, that will now change. Okay, so that's just how you make things, and there's no reason why it couldn't be no decimal places, so we could just keep it at pounds. Yeah? But we'll keep it, we can, I haven't actually done this with you, but we can even choose currency. So this is quite interesting. Look, currency, and it puts the little, you can choose where you are in the world. Okay, but obviously we're pound, and let's have 2 decimal places with currency. Press OK, and it puts a little pound sign in for us. So, what would be our best month? Our best month would be the month where we've spent the least money, I would say. Okay, so there's a formula for that, and it's called minimum. Okay, and it's abbreviated to min. So what I'm going to say is, given a bunch of these numbers, which is the smallest, which is the lowest, which is the minimum number? Okay, and it again follows exactly the same principle. Equals min, open brackets, and then we pick our range. Okay, so again, I'm just going to click and I'm going to drag it out, and then this time I'm not going to put the end bracket in. I'm just going to press return, and so it says that the best month we had was when we spent £448.96, and we can see, sure enough, that to me, as I flick over, yep, that is the lowest one. So if minimum was the formula to work out the lowest one, what might be the formula in your mind? Just have a think, to work out the worst month, when you spent the most amount of money. Well, it wouldn't be mostimum, it would probably be maximum. So let's try it. And maximum would probably be is abbreviated to max, just to make things nice and easy. So we'll say max, open up our brackets, click and drag across the area, hit return, and £642.21 appears to be the worst month. And actually we can see that occurred on 2 months. So obviously coming up to Christmas, always have more money to spend then. So now there's loads of different formulas, so I'm just going to go ahead and show you some other ones. But the reason I'm showing you these is you may use them, you may not. The point is that they all follow the same pattern, and once you know that pattern, so there's some form of manipulating text. So watch this. So upper, okay, it's talking about uppercase, and it's giving me the little hint. It's saying what text do you want to convert to upper? Well, let's convert this word's average spend. Okay, so I'm just going to click on what cell do I want to change. I want to change A19, and just see what happens. And look, can you see? Everything becomes uppercase. We got lower, whoops, What did I miss? I missed out the equal sign. We've got lower, open brackets. Well, let's make this one all lowercase. Okay. We've also got one called proper, and what proper does is it capitalizes the first word in each word, first letter in each word. So here, this best month, obviously this is all lowercase. So if I click on it, so if I took, I'm doing my formula here, proper, and I click on it, press return, it capitalizes the first word. So say somebody gives you a list, you get a spreadsheet and it's got a whole bunch of names in it, all right? But the names are all in lowercase. Then you would use the proper formula. You'd say equals proper, and point it at the all the lowercase names, and then it will capitalize. It will put capitalize the first and last letter. Another formula that we can use is the count formula. Okay, so count does exactly what it says on the tin. It counts how, and what it's counting is how many cells have got data in them. So what do I mean by that? Let me explain. So look, here's our council tax. Here's our council tax row across here. Okay. Well, this might, obviously this is quite a small spreadsheet, and we can see at a glance that we're not paying things for in these 2 months. So, if my maths is right, if we're not paying for 2 months, then we are paying for 10 months. Okay. So it's but obviously for the purpose of but you might have a huge spreadsheet. Okay. And you just want to go, well, how many of these cells have got some information in? How many have I filled in? So you can use the count formula. Again, exactly the same way of starting. We're going to do a formula. We're going to start with equals. We're going to say count. Okay. We're going to open some brackets. We're going to select the values. Let's type it in this time. I've been doing a lot of click and dragging. Let's just remind ourselves how we type something. So we say what the first cell is. Well, it's B3. Okay, B3, and then we want to count until M3. And we'll see the little blue box appear on the screen like that, and we'll be all good and proper, and we'll close off our formula with a right bracket, and we press return, and hopefully this will say 10. Good, it does. So this is saying that 10 of those rows that I specified, it's counted that there's some information inside that. Now, something I haven't shown you yet, and this is great. This is lovely just a little. So we know that we can come to this bottom right-hand corner, and we can click and we can drag down. All right, that's good. I'm going to undo that. Control Z. There is an even better way. Okay, and I've had to wait until now to tell you. Because only elite people, not elite people, only elite Excel users know this. But what you can do is you can double click in the bottom right hand corner, and it automatically drags it down. And it drags it down so long as there is information in the cell to the left of it. Okay, so you can see that all these have got, and then when we hit the gap, it stops. Okay, it hasn't done one for the bottom. But if you've got a load of data, and even clicking and dragging can be slow sometimes. If you've got massive spreadsheets, you've got to drag down 500 rows, you're going to know about that. So you double click and poof, it drops it all the way down. Absolutely lovely. So we can see that, for example, from doing that quickly, we can see that we only had to pay our gas maintenance plan for 8 months of the year, because it's counted all the cells that have got data in them. So hopefully that's set you up for how you go about entering in formulas. Always the same sort of pattern. It's always equals, then it's the name of the formula, then you're going to open some brackets, and then have a play around, have an experiment, and see what you can find out. So one of the other things that comes up in one of the screenshots that I don't think I've mentioned so far is the idea of find and replace. Okay, it's a very, very simple idea, but find and replace, all it does is it looks for a word. Okay, so I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut Control F to bring up the find dialog box, and we've got find and replace. So let's say that we didn't think that the word best was particularly good grammar. And let's say we wanted to change it to something even worse, greatest. Okay? So, oops, that's what I want to replace it with. So, so what I'm going to do is, it's quite simple. Find what? Find the word best, replace with greatest. Okay? And let's just say, so we can find, and it will find it for us, and then we can say replace. And there we go, with a, very quickly it's replaced it. And it's also replaced, because our formulas are live, okay, these didn't actually have anything written in, remember, these were just formulas showing the results, you know, so once we change one, it immediately changed the others, because, you know, that's one of the great things about Excel, it's live, and when you make a change, all your formulas will immediately update. So let's just do one more. Let's, so I'll press Control F, go into replace, and let's say this here, this den plan. Okay, so let's say den plan, and we want to replace it with dental plan. Okay, and I'm just going to press replace all. It's made one replacement. Okay, it tells me on this little box, and there you go. So it's for changing one thing, it's probably not particularly quick, but if you've got a lot of things to change within your document, then it's certainly worth using. So that's find and replace. So another little side note sort of thing that we're going to talk about here is the idea of headers and footers. Okay, so headers and footers is a little area where you can place some text, and it will either appear at the top, so the header of every page, or at the bottom, or otherwise known as the footer of every page. So it's just a little bit. So sometimes companies like to, you know, they might just want to have the company name. So you might just want M2 training at the bottom of every page, or, you know, just so that if it's printed out, you know, your copyright, you know, a little copyright notice or something like that. So let me just show you how you go about doing it. It's very simple, and it's accessed through page setup. So we go to File, choose page setup, okay, and this is how your page setup will look when it comes in. And this is, you know, the main reason that people often go here is to choose between a portrait or a landscape. This is set up at the moment to be landscape, although I'm not planning on printing this out at all, so it doesn't really matter. But I'll just show you how it works. So we go over to the header and footer. At the top here is where the header is. Okay, so at the top of the page is the header, and the bottom of the page is a footer. Okay, so I've written a quick one that says "Made by Dan." Okay, because it's, you know, it's all about looking classy. Nothing looks more classy than that. So let's do a header one. So to do the footer one, I've pressed the custom footer button. Let's just press custom header. And basically it splits it down. Do you want it to go to the left, the centre, or the top? So let's put it at the top right. So I click in the box and I type M2 training. Okay, and I press OK, and there it is. It's done. And how can we see it? We can see it up here. Let's do a print preview, because this is how it will look when it's printed out. And so you can see in the top right hand corner it says M2 training. In the bottom left hand corner it says Made by Dan. Okay, and close that. I didn't mean to close it totally. So if we look at the custom footer, you can see I put that in the left section, that Made by Dan. Okay, you know, I could put the year in the bottom right. You know, actually sometimes it's good to put the date you've made something. So let's just put March 2012. Okay, press OK. Let's do a preview of that. So now we get March 2012, and this appears on every sheet. So obviously I've not formatted this correctly to print it out, because it sort of cuts off here in September. But you can see if I go to the second page that gets printed out, every page that's printed out has the header or the footer in. Okay, so you know you can put all sorts of different bits of information in. I'm going to come out of that now. If I want to go back into page setup, by the way, press the setup button. Okay, and there's a whole bunch of predefined things. So the other thing that people commonly have is, you know, how many pages there are. You know, if you look through here, you know, so page 1 of 1. So let's have a look at that. Let's do press OK, and you can see that's now changed to page 1, and when I click down, it sequentially numbers it. So there's a whole bunch of, if I go back into setup, there's a whole bunch of custom different things that you can have in your footer or in your header, okay? But typically I'd say you either want the page number, that you can have it, look at that, let's have a look at this one. Okay, so that's prepared by Dan, so it's taken that name from what's in my properties on the computer. So prepared by Dan on this date, and it's put page 1. And on the next page, it's got prepared by Dan, and again it's got page 2, so that's going to automatically increment. Okay, so these are just header and footers. If you wish to put something in the header, if you wish something to repeat on every sheet of paper, you put it in the header or the footer. Okay, so I've just opened up this new spreadsheet, and we're going to move on to the topic of auto filtering. This is hugely useful, especially as your spreadsheets start to grow and get larger. So we've got the idea here is we've got some fictitious information that's been handed to us as part of a survey that's taken place in a hotel. Okay, so this is only a small sample, let's imagine. So they've looked at 4 different rooms. We've got room 1, room 2, room 3, room 4. Then it's got an inventory of what's in the room, how many of them there are, okay, when it was checked, whether it's serviceable or unserviceable, okay, and who actually did the checking, okay, Mr. Brown, Miss White, Mr. Brown again, or Mrs. Green. So it sounds a bit like Cluedo, okay. So that's the data we've got here. Now, at a quick glance, I'd like to see just everything that's unserviceable, everything that's totally broken. So I can see there's a bunch here, there's another one here. Is there a way that I can quickly see them? Okay, quickly sort of filter out things I don't want to see. Okay, and that's what autofilter is all about. Okay, and it really is pretty automatic and pretty easy to do. Okay. It does depend on one thing though. It does depend on everything being in order. Okay, notice there are no gaps here. Okay, and that they are right. They're sort of touching the top row. Everything's sort of in the next row down. So I've got one row here as the header, and then straight away I've got all my information, and then all the information just repeats down. Okay, it doesn't matter. You know, it can be all mixed up as much as you want. In fact, the more it's mixed up, the better autofilter, or the more useful autofilter will be for you. Okay, so let's a lot of the time it's a lot easier just to see something. So let's select, I'm going to select this first row, and I'm just going to turn on autofilter. So all I've done is select the row, I go to data and filter, and here's autofilter. Okay, I click it, and all that's happened is it's put these little drop down arrows next to every one of these headings at the top of the column. Let me just click off just to make it more. So let's have a look. Let's say, so let me click on the little drop down arrow, and I'm going to choose, what did I want to see? Unserviceable. Now watch what happens. I click unserviceable, and boom, everything disappears that doesn't have unserviceable in one of the rows. So we get all the other data. So let me just put it back, go back to showing all of the things. So look, this first line here, one double bed, quantity 1, the date it was checked, serviceable, Mr. Brown. All right, that whole row, on that row there is no mention of unserviceable. So that row will disappear. All these will disappear down to this one. That probably be the first one we see. So let's have a look. Unserviceable, Miss White. Let's have a look. So if we go, show me unserviceable, and there we go. Unserviceable, Miss White. Yeah. So it's just filtered out all the stuff that we didn't want to see. We're just choosing which areas we want to see. And we can see that we've got it turned on because it's turned blue in that filter. So we can see at a glance which one's filtering out. Now let's sort of up the ante and let's turn on another one. Okay, so let's say that we just want to find all the things that were unserviceable but that were by Mrs. Green. So now we've got 2 filters going on. So now this is just showing us all the unserviceable items by Mrs. Green. Okay, and these all happen to be in room number 4. Okay, to turn off an auto filter, we click on it and we choose all. Click on it again and choose all. Okay, and it's simple as that. So let me see all the things we found in room 3. Boom, there it is straight away. Go back to all again. Let me see all of the things that were just a quantity of 1. So these are all the 1 items. Okay, let me see all the items that were 4. Okay, so each room's got 4 glasses in it. Good, I can, a quick glance. It's a really good way of checking things. And look, I can see that these are broken. Okay, so it all, and we go back up and we choose all to unselect something. So let's turn it off then. How do we turn off autofilter? We simply select the same data that we use to turn it on, and we just do the reverse. Filter and untick autofilter. Okay? Let me turn it back on again. Highlight the row I want. Data, autofilter. Okay? Let's see what Mr. Brown found. Okay, so Mr. Brown, he did rooms 1 and 3. You can see how it really makes information more manageable. I want to just check something. Yeah, so actually, I don't think you even have to select. Let's just turn autofilter off. With some, we're in the middle of selecting things. Let's see what happens when we turn it off. Boom, it just resets it. So I was wrong, you don't actually have to highlight it to turn it off. You just go up to data, filter, and untick it. And one more time, turn autofilter on, select it, choose data, filter, turn autofilter on, and let's see all the things that were checked on the 24th. It's great, isn't it? It's a really, really nice way of being able to quickly move around some data. Okay, so I've just made a few adjustments to this spreadsheet, and what we haven't done yet, and what we're going to finish with, is just the idea of looking at working across multiple worksheets. So down at the bottom of the screen, I've renamed these. I've taken the data. I used the autofilter command, and I just took the data and I then selected room 1 and copied it all there. Then I selected room 2 and copied it there, room 3 and room 4. Okay, so I've just copied the data and I've put each room on its own spreadsheet. Okay, and what I'd like is a summary on the front sheet for how many items were in each room. Okay, so this is something we haven't looked at before, is working across different sheets. Okay, so I'm going to right click down here, I'm going to right click and I'm going to choose insert. Okay, and then I want to insert a worksheet. Okay, you get a whole bunch of things you can insert. I'm going to choose, and it's called sheet 6, but I don't like that name. I don't think that's particularly informative, so I'm going to double click where it says sheet 6 and it becomes editable, and I'm going to just call it summary, so it's going to be our summary page. And then I've got room 1, room 2. Now here's something else that we haven't looked at before. We've talked about the idea that you can click and drag formulas and that they automatically complete. Well, there's a whole bunch of other things that Excel will have a go at guessing for you, and one of them is things that go up sequentially. So I've got room 1, room 2. I've selected both of them, and I'm going to drag the bottom right hand corner, and look, you can see room 3, room 4. I mean, I could add 26 rooms here, but we've only got 4, so just a nice little tidbit there. If something's going sequentially, it won't work from just one on its own. Oh, maybe it does. Let me just delete these. I never thought it worked from 1. Oh, look at that, it does. All these years I've been putting at least 2 in, and it works from 1. Okay, and it does it for other things. This isn't what I'm going to do, but I'm just going to show you now. So January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, see? I always thought it, oh well, so you do it from 2. So it works from 1. And then I'm going to put here, I'm going to write number of items in room. Okay? Now another little trick, as we're getting more advanced here, I want to move this column width. So we've seen this before, where we come up and we grab a column heading and we can drag it across. Okay, so I want to make it nice and wide so that it fits for this text. But it was like this to start off with. So a little trick is, you move it in between, double click. it sets it to the right width. Really useful, really helpful. Okay, so how do we count the number of items that are in a room? Well, I sort of gave it away there by saying count. So what I want to do is I'm going to write a formula here, and the formula is going to work across, I'm going to refer to data that's on another sheet. And the nice thing is, we don't have to worry, it works exactly the same way. So let's say equals, because we're going to do a formula, count, which we had a brief look at earlier on, open brackets. Now what do I want to count? Well, I'm now going to take the mouse, I'm going to come down to room 1, and then I'm just going to select the area I want to count. Well, I want to count these cells here. Okay, and then I'm going to press return. Now let's have a look at the formula that it wrote for us, and let's just see if we can decode this a little bit. So equals count, okay, that's fine, we understand that. Now then, in these small little single quotes, it wrote this, it wrote room space 1 single quote exclamation mark. Alright? Room 1 is the name of the tab. You have to put it in single quotes because it's a word, okay? And then the exclamation mark just tells Excel that it's a sheet. Now we didn't have to write this, I'm just explaining what these different bits mean. So if you ever come across, and when we did graphs, we had this this formatting. So it's basically, this says go to the worksheet called room 1, and from that go from A3 to A12. So go to the worksheet called room 1 and choose A3 to A12. Pretty simple. Let's do it again. Let's have another go. So equals count open brackets. Let's do room 2 this time. Click on room 2, select the area we want, press return. There's 9 items in there. Let's do it again. Equals count open brackets. Let's go to room 3, select the number of items in room 3, press return. There's only 8 items in room 3. And let's do the last one. Equals count open brackets, go to room 4, select room 4, press return. There's 10 items in room 4. So it's nothing scary, and you can see each of these are virtually the same, but as we flicking through them we see that all that's changing is the room number, and the room numbers are just the numbers down here. So if I was to change, sometimes Excel can be very clever. Let's see, if I rename this to say room 6, and we go back to our summary, look at that. It changed. It knew that the worksheet name was room 4 before. I changed it to room 6. You know, these could be anything. I can call this anything. Okay? I go back and now that says anything. Okay, so hopefully that's understand, so you're just pulling in the worksheet and then the references are the same we've been using the whole way through. Okay, so we've covered a lot of different concepts in this. Hopefully you found this useful, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Or not seeing you. Thank you, bye bye.